A bipartisan group looking at the Maine Department of Health and Human Services met for the first time today in Augusta. The Blue Ribbon Commission will be studying DHHS as a whole and the way they deliver services. The committee is tasked with identifying ways the DHHS system could be improved. Democratic Senator Joe Baldacci is a member of the committee. He says he'd like to see the system go back to 2011 when it was a leader nationally. During that time, he says the state substantially reduced the number of children in foster care by close to 50%. They also went from 4% of kinship placement to about 40%. Republican Representative Kathy Javner is also a member of the commission and says she'd like to see an improvement in the system.
Accessing services, the delivery of services, the accountability of our tax dollars, how the processes can be streamlined, the efficiencies that need to be made. Those are what I am really hoping we will be able to flesh out.
It's not so much the organization of things necessarily as how the things they do are carried out, and I think we need to change the philosophy even more, it's going in this direction anyway, to preventive and not just reactive.
Each member of the committee had the opportunity to voice their priorities for the session. One is training staff members to properly handle each case.